Okay, now that you've got your cuttings and you're back at your potting bench or your potting table or whatever it is you're going to work at, now it's time to actually make cuttings to propagate with. So when you're looking at your rosemary or your lavender or whatever else you have, wherever the leaf touches the stem, that's the leaf nodule, that's also where the new roots will form. The cells within that nodule have the ability to make a leaf or make a root, and depending on what the plant needs. So what you're going to do is you're going to get something this long you can cut in half. Then you're going to take the bottom half and strip it clean. So you're going to pull all those little leaves off, and you're going to save those for later. So once you're satisfied, you've got it clean, that's when you're going to dip it in your rooting hormone. Now this rooting hormone is powder. It comes in liquid form or powder, and I prefer to actually use rooting hormone versus like say cinnamon, because I want to make sure that my stuff roots. I don't want to spend all this time and not know for certain. So you take your dibble, which is anything that makes a nice hole. That's what it's called. Make a hole in your pot, slide that down, and then mash the dirt up against the stem. It's very important that the dirt touch the stem, otherwise the roots won't form. And it's also very important that that leaf nodules have rooting hormone on the nodule, and it is below the soil level. So that's that. So we have this other cutting that we cut off that stem. I'm going to cut that little soft tip off, because like we talked about in the other video, it's too tender, it won't make it. So then there we've got us some more rosemary leaves. Dip it in the hormone. As you can see, the powder is covering that whole stem, so all of those nodules are covered. Make your hole. Put it down in there. I didn't want to go. And mash it together. And do that one more time. Cut it in half, strip the bottom half loose, dip it in rooting hormone, make the hole, put it in, mash it up, and we're done. So what you're going to want to do now is make sure these are good and moist. They need to be well watered. And then you're going to take a plastic bag, set it in, and rubber band the top, and that makes a little greenhouse to keep it humid. What you want is for these things to stay moist. To dry out is a death sentence for the seedlings or the cuttings. They won't make it. So you want to make sure that these stay moist. You don't want to overwater it. And the way you'll know when you've got good roots going is that you'll see new leaves appear. And when new leaves appear on the cutting, it means that there are new roots down in the soil. And so then you let that grow till it's the size you want it, when it's filled its little cup up, and then you either transplant it to a bigger pot or you transplant it out to the garden, whichever you intended to do with it. Now another neat little program for propagating cuttings is this kind of pot is called an azalea pot. Now all you need is something this shape. You don't have to have exactly an azalea pot. You just need a pot like this, and then you need a little clay pot. And then you're going to take candle wax and cover that little hole up on the clay pot. And then what you're going to do is make a little hole in the center and put the clay pot right in the middle. So you've got that right there. Now what this is going to do is you're going to fill this clay pot up with water. And because the clay is porous, the water is going to seep out into the potting soil around it, and that's going to keep the cuttings watered. And this is a handy little way to do it. And you're going to do it just like you did those pots. Again, cut the tender tip off, strip the leaves, dip in the hormone, and in it goes. And so then on this, instead of having individual cups, you're just going to keep going around leaves off. You're just going to keep going around the pot. as you can see, once you've done a few of these, you really start to get a rhythm, and it doesn't take any time at all. Now when you've got all these little bits of rosemary loose up here, what I like to do is take them and put them in the chicken coop. I put them in the nest boxes of my chickens, and it makes the chicken coop smell better. And it's also good for the chickens to peck at and eat, because the essential oils in rosemary that are good for me and you are good for your chickens. So they're happy, and so are you. So then you just keep your little pot in here filled up with water. Whenever it runs out, you just refill that thing, and then this just takes care of itself. And then when you have new growth, again, that's when you know you have roots, and that's when you transplant these guys to either a bigger pot or out to the garden. And there you have it.